all sons of bitches.
Thanks for tuning into Heavy, where we bring you the latest interviews with local, national, and international artists. Today's victim is...
So this is Mirai from a Japanese heavy metal band named Sigh. So we are releasing the new album entitled Shiki this week. This is the 12th album by us. This will be out on the UK's Peaceville Records. This is very heavy, dark, and very Japanese album for sure. So I hope you like it.
Beautiful, mate. Thanks for joining us today. Yeah, as you say, Sigh are releasing your latest album, Shiki, this week, actually, on August the 26th. So the press release said that it includes some of the band's heaviest and darkest material in some time. Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely, because the theme, the album is, almost about my fear, personal fear of getting old, fear of death. So the music had to be very dark and heavy as well, because theme is very heavy. So yeah, I can agree with you. Definitely, this is a very heavy and dark, probably the heaviest album by Sigh ever, I guess.
Yeah. So can you go into it a bit more from a musical point of view? Like what were you going for with it?
Well, at first I was planning to make it the album in the vein of like the album like Scorn Defeat. I mean, it's more black metal, primitive, straightforward album. But as the time went by, I kept arranging these songs again and again. So it turned out to be a little different from my first plan. But still, I think it's got a lot of black metal, dark and eerie feel in it. And of course, it's got a lot of Japanese traditional instruments. So I think it has a lot of Asian and Japanese feel in it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And the press release also says that it takes you on a journey through the strange and psychedelic. So can you explain what it means by that?
You mean the title?
Well, the press release says that the album itself and the music on it is strange and psychedelic in places.
Well, yeah, I think so. The psychedelia is always a part of Sigh's music. So this time I wasn't, making it psychedelic, intentionally, because as I said, the theme is about death and fear of getting old. So, well, I like vintage keyboards from the 60s and 70s. So I used a lot of, those vintage stuff. So probably those instruments may sound psychedelic to some people, but well, it is just a result. It is not a purpose or intention of mine this time. Yeah.
And you released a single, Mayanaka no Kai. Well, so is that a good sonic representation of what to expect from the whole album?
I think so, because that song has everything from great guitar solo to flute solo, shakuhachi solo, and it's got a vocoder, and it's got some throat singing. So it's got everything which Sigh have been doing for over 30 years, and it's also that song has a lot of scenes. It's very much layered, but still it's just 5.5 minutes. So I like that. Actually, Mayonaka no Kai is my favorite song from the album for sure. And also the theme, that song is not about death or fear of getting old. That song is based on my personal strange experience. So the long story short, I experienced midnight twice in one night somehow. So the details can be read at the end of the video, or it is also included in the booklet of the album. So, but it is based on my actual very, very strange experience.
Oh, very cool. So the actual the concept of the album and the artwork is based on an old Japanese poem. Can you go into a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, because I found the very, very traditional Japanese poem from 800 or 900 years ago. So it describes a scene where an old man is watching the cherry blossom being blown off by the strong spring wind. So, the cherry blossom is very beautiful, but it is also a symbol of fragility in Japan because they are beautiful, but they gone very quickly, like in 4 or 5 days. So it implies your heyday is short. And I thought it was very interesting that, the people from 800 or 900 years ago felt exactly the same as the Japanese do now, because the technology evolved a lot. Now we have the internet, now we have the AI things, but still we have to have a fear of death, which hasn't changed over, many, years, even for 800 and 900. So I thought it was very interesting, about the poem I found. So the cover artwork is a visualization of the poem. So that is the concept.
Yeah, very cool. And the title Shiki, what does that actually mean?
Well, Shiki has a lot of meaning in Japanese, like, time to die, or 4 seasons, or death ghoul, or ceremony, conducting an orchestra. So there are so many meanings in it. But the main themes are obviously about time to die and 4 seasons. So time to die, you understand it because, the album is about my personal fear of death. But 4 seasons, it means now I'm 52, and if life has 4 seasons, I'm in a probably late autumn. So now the winter is coming. And after that, of course, spring will not come. So this will be the end of my life. So yeah, it is the 4 seasons, and being in late autumn. Of course, it is about my fear of getting old. So the title is about time to die and 4 seasons for sure.
Right. So you speak a bit of personal fear of getting old and fear of death. Like, did writing and recording this album actually help with that?
Actually, no, because you have to get old, you have to die sooner or later. So there's no cure for it. You just have to live with it. So yeah, of course, I wanted to express my fear as honestly and straightforwardly as possible, but it didn't help at all.
It didn't help
at all. I still have it. Yeah.
And the album also features Frederick Leclerc from Creator and Mike Hell from Fear Factory on drums. So what did they actually bring to the band's sound?
Well, they did a great job, but the reason we asked them to play on the album was mostly because of the pandemic. Because when I started writing the songs in early 2020, it was also the beginning of the pandemic. So I didn't think we would be able to go into the studio to rehearse or to record the album. So, and I knew Mike Heller, he had his own studio and he was able to record everything at his own place. So I just asked him to play the drums for us, and luckily he said yes. And after that, originally, our guitarist was supposed to record the guitar, but somehow he started acting very strange, maybe because of the COVID lockdown things, but he was very, very slow in answering my emails. Like sometimes he took 3 or 4 weeks just to answer an email, which I thought was very stupid because, as I said, I was already over 50, and I didn't think I had a lot of time left to make an album. So I could not waste time on, waiting for his reply. So, I just had to fire him, unfortunately. So instead, I asked Fred to play the guitar and drums because, he's a great friend of mine. And of course, he's a great guitarist and he's a great bassist too. And yeah, the Mike Hiller's drumming is crazy. It's insanely good, and of course the same for the Fred's guitar and bassist. Obviously, this is by far the best album by Sigh for sure. And I also have to admit, I wanted to play with a musician who didn't have any technical limitations. So yeah, it was a great experience to work with them this time for sure.
And overall, your music combines black metal with Eastern influences, as you touched on before. So how difficult is it to combine those two together?
I have 2 biggest musical background. because I started taking the classical piano at the age of 4 because my mother was a classical piano teacher. So classical music is one of my biggest musical background. And then I got into heavy metal when I was a teenager. So heavy metal and classical music are the two biggest musical background of mine. So the first intention was to mix classical music and heavy metal. So, when I started Sigh. Then after that, I wanted to take in an atmosphere of horror movies or horror soundtracks. And I found out that the many of the horror soundtracks had the works from 20th century's classical music, namely avant-garde classical music. So I started I started studying some avant-garde stuff like 20th century's classical music or free jazz, just to recreate the atmosphere of horror movies. That was the beginning. I started taking a lot of different genre and those unusual metal elements in our music.
Yeah, very cool. All right, mate. Well, thanks very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Shiki is out on August the 26th, which is only a couple of days away. So best of luck with everything, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, mate. You take care.
You too.
Thanks, brother.
Bye-bye.